Every generation blames the one before. That was in a song that was sung by Paul Carrick in the band Mike and the Mechanics back in the 1980s, mid-80s. The song was called The Living Years, and it's a true statement. Every generation blames the one before. Likewise, every generation shows condemnation to its successor. You hear all the time older people say, oh, these kids nowadays don't have any morals, or they're lazy or whatever. That's just nonsense for the most part. Every generation is different, and they don't seem to like the one before nor the one after. So that's just the whole drama and cycle of life. So, but the purpose of this video is to talk about having hope for the future, instead of like saying that the world's going to hell in a handbasket. Hope for millennials and Gen Z and Gen Alpha that followed. And I have hope for them. And we have to understand the frustration of the millennials. For one thing, a lot of them come out of college with so much debt nowadays. It's anywhere from 30, 50, 100,000 or more in student loan debt. And then the job market isn't all that good either, for the most part, unless you have some highly skilled training that is in high demand right now. A lot of the traditional paths have seemed to dry up somewhat. And this is our fault, my fault as a parent of kids that just went through college not that long ago, and boomers' fault to some extent, by convincing them and pounding into their brains that they needed to go to college to get a good job. And don't worry about the debt. The job will be there. You get the job, you get to go to college, you get the job, you'll pay off the debt. Well, now, what do we tell them? What do we tell them now that the world has changed? And maybe we need more plumbers and air conditioning people and electricians and carpenters. Maybe we need people to do that too, and welders, right? Where are they? So let's go back and look at some of the things that happened, like boomers like myself, how idealistic we were. We were the peace, love generation, Woodstock. We would change the world, man. That's what we thought, right? We were called the counterculture. We called ourselves that. But if you take a look, we've become the establishment. We've kind of become our parents over the years. We didn't feed the hungry. We didn't house the poor. We didn't end the wars. We didn't give aid to the sick. We didn't even teach little Johnny to read. We have failed in some of these ways. Belief in our sacred institutions, things that we held dear and believed in, and the generation before us created and nurtured, crumbling. Take a look at people with regard to church attendance, or even having faith at all in a deity. And certainly very little faith in government solutions, little faith in education, whether it be the primary, secondary, or post-secondary levels. And if you think about Congress has probably a lower approval rating than pond scum or anything, E. coli or something like that. All that pessimism aside, though, let's consider some reason for hope here. We have access to incredible amounts of information nowadays. Never like before. We never had information. We turned on the 6 or 11 news, and we got our information. We got our information from newspapers, and we believed what the institution of our media told us at the time. And now that's another institution that the trust level is fairly low in. Traditional media actually is going out, is on its way out. And what is replacing it? Well, people are getting their information now from social media. Young people have turned the TV off. They're getting their information from social media like Twitter and YouTube and Facebook, etc. And it's not from high-paid news outlets that have sites. It's independent media. Some guy with an iPhone and a mouth. And of course, the mainstream media feels an existential threat, so they call it fake news. But think about what fake news is. Remember them saying, Nate Silver was saying that Hillary Clinton had a 98% chance of winning. This was like a week before the election. And they were all so sure. Fake news, really. And now the whole Russia thing, I just did a video on that as well. Millennials and their successors are going to make very good choices. They're more informed and they're more aware than any of us were in the past. And as their community grows, and it will, as boomers fade into the sunset, they will be sought. They will be sought by advertisers, politicians, job seekers of the future who are looking for 21st century skills that they have and they are developing. They're going to shake up the whole paradigm. And if our institutions of government, religion, and education will ever hope to survive, they're going to have to listen to their voices and not just give them lip service like they tried in the last election. So it should be interesting. 2020 will be the first one that the post 9/11 generation will ever vote in. Think about it. That generation was born into war, and there's still war going on in the same places in the world. Don't you think it's time? Isn't it time that we figure out that it doesn't work and that the United States is a war economy? I mean, after all, isn't it called national defense? Not national offense, is it? And what we need is we need a strong military, but we can have a strong military for a fraction of the cost if we put our men and women to work here, to guard our borders, to guard our coastlines, right? I think that's really where the millennials are going to go with this. They're going to completely shake up the paradigm. And their world is going to be different. And I truly believe their world is going to be better because they will shed the shackles of these institutions that have plagued us. Thank you very much. I'd like to hear your comments.